I think it's time to start with our co-summit. Good morning to everybody. I would like to welcome you to the fifth co-summit between ITER and Artemis. First of all, for those who do not know me, I would like to introduce myself. I'm the president of the Artemis Industry Association, and at the same time in my regular life, I work for a company called Daimler, and I'm responsible for electronics and software technologies. First of all, before we start with the program, I would like to take the opportunity to say thank you to our sponsors, which helped to make the co-summit to something which we expect to be an important platform for the whole ICT community. So our sponsors I would like to thank are the Ministère du Redressement Productif, Direction Générale de la Compétitive de l'Industrie et des Services, Airbus, Alcatel-Lucent, Bull, Institut Minet, Telecom, Technicolor et Thales. So thanks again. We really appreciate your support, and it's really supportive to achieve our goals. I already mentioned that this is our fifth co-summit, and this is, from my point of view, I think it's a good reason to have a short look back at the history of our cooperation between ITER and Artemis. We do this co-summit now for 5 years, but we intensified our cooperation in 2010 when we established a Sherpa group who was established in 2010 representing the Artemis Industry Association Steering Board, the Public Authorities Board and the Office of the Joint Undertaking of Artemis, the European Commission, the ITER 2 Board and Board Support Group, and last but not least, the ITER 2 Directors and the ETAC. We issued the first shared document which concluded with a statement, one mission and different instruments. And then we thought this would not be enough, so we continued our work with a second initiative, also with a kind of Sherpa-style working group in 2012, which intensively worked on a common vision for 2030 and a shared roadmap and a common repository. This work was concluded in September 9, 2012 in Frankfurt, including the decision to continue this cooperation with the so-called Artemis ITER Cooperation Committee. We will have a first meeting of this AICC, so called tomorrow morning at 8:30. Rudolf will then describe some of the elements of the Vision 2020 later on, and the results of the repository will be presented later on during the program in one of our parallel sessions. Before I hand over to Rudolf, let's have a short look at the messages and goals of our co-summit. We want to demonstrate the Vision 2030, as already mentioned, and the complementary strength of both our programs. We want to show the results of projects and their potential business and societal impact. So please visit the exhibition of our projects from ITER as well as from Artemis. We want to provide networking opportunities for and between the ITER and Artemis community. We want to promote both programs among our target groups, and finally, we want to show the future goals and plans of both of our programs. Now I'd like to hand over to Rudolf as the chairman of the ITER 2 board. Rudolf, please.
Thank you very much, Klaus. Ladies and gentlemen, the shared Vision 2030, which we present you today, starts from the observation that the time ahead of us is full of change and disruptions. We have identified 7 areas of major change, and we consider these areas also as areas of opportunities. Globalization and demographic change. The globalization will accelerate in the coming decades due to 2 demographic developments. First, the world population will grow from 7 billion today to 8.3 billion in 2030. And 95% of this growth happens outside of Europe, outside of Japan and the United States. This growth of the world population happens in developing and emerging countries. And not only that the population is growing, but also the middle class in these countries is growing from 1.8 billion to 4.9 billion. This is a dramatic change. And of course, these are also opportunities. In our Vision 2030, we call this 8 billion opportunities. On the other hand, as a consequence of this development, the way we live and are doing business in 2030 will be radically different from today. Because if we would continue with business as usual, we would need 2.3 planet Earth, but of course we only will have one Earth in 2030. So we have to prepare that the world around us will change heavily. Management of scarce resources. It is clear that in such a development, we need better management of scarce resources like energy, water, food, or scarce materials. In Eureka, guided by the Turkish chair, by Okan, we already react on this development, and in parallel to the existing Eureka clusters, Eurocia and Aquo on energy and water, we create now a cluster on food. The information systems needed to manage these scarce resources span over many layers, from networked sensors and actuators to global platforms for monitoring, control, and managing the information. And the web of objects, which was invented by our previous vice chair, Gérard Rouquayrol, will play a major role in this management of scarce resources. Urbanization. Already by 2025, there will be 29 megacities. That means cities with more than 10 million inhabitants. And the administration of these megacities and the management of their infrastructure rely heavily on ICT. Energy, mobility, waste disposal, water, city lighting, safety and security all depend on the availability of appropriate information systems. Healthcare and nutrition, I want to mention as well. The health sector is becoming one of the most important future markets driven by the convergence of medicine, pharmacy, and biotechnology. Progress in molecular diagnostics and cost-effective gene analysis open new possibilities for personalized health and nutrition. In all these areas, as I already said, ICT plays a major role to master the changes. ITEA and Artemis already today are working on these societal challenges, and in all 7 areas, a combination of what we are doing, networked sensors and actuators and software-intensive systems and services will be needed to stay ahead of the waves of change. The balanced approach of top-down and bottom-up offered by ITEA and Artemis also in future will be necessary for Europe to master the challenges ahead of us.
Okay, thank you, Rudolf. Now, before we start with the official part of the program, let's now have a short look, a brief look at the future of our organizations. We all know that Europe has a world-class automotive, aerospace, communication, manufacturing, medical equipment industry, and so on and so on. And we all know that embedded systems are key and will stay key of the innovation of these products. So an adequate coordination and funding of these activities are essential to maintain this position to help to solve the enormous challenges posed by the Vision 2030 already mentioned by Rudolf. And we also know that pan-European action is and remains essential for this. So hence, Artemis is a key player that definitely needs to continue. So we are currently intensively discussing the future of our organization and the joint undertaking together with all stakeholders, joint undertaking, European Commission and public authorities. And of course, my final statement on this is the cooperation with our program with ITEA. However, this will look like will definitely continue and has to continue.
So, ladies and gentlemen, last year at the Co-Summit in Helsinki, Klaus and myself, we announced 2 things. First, we want to make Artemis 2 and ITEA 3 happen, and we will go the road to ITEA 3 together. Today, now we are able to report on a first success. We got the label for ITEA 3. ITEA 3 is Eureka 7632. Thank you very much. And we got this label to a joint effort of ITAC, our board support group, the steering group, the ITEA board, and the ITEA directors committee. And I will especially mention Cecile Lübery, which will afterwards give us a message. She was one of the very strong supporters. Maybe I can mention this. Last year in Helsinki, she took Klaus and myself together and said, you go the road to ITEA 3 together, and you guarantee me and you promise that you will do it. We did it, Cecile. So I thank all supporters of this work, and together we made it happen. Now the ITEA 3 projects will run until 2025. So we had good reasons to think about the future and develop a joint vision 2030. But it's also time to revise our ambition. Innovation, business impact, and fast exploitation will remain in our focus. But in addition, we want to extend our ambition to seizing the high ground. That means we encourage our projects to go for high-level positions from where they can overlook the field of competition and react quickly to upcoming opportunities. And you find in our Co-Summit magazine wonderful examples of seizing the high ground. But even, let's say, with this extended vision, this extended ambition, I think something is missing. This would not be sufficient for the coming 10 years in which we operate ITEA 3. Therefore, I say the new ambition of ITEA is to be number one in 5 categories: innovation, business impact, fast exploitation, seizing the high ground, and happiness. In ITEA 3, the happiness of our people will be as important as the success of our project results. And now, ladies and gentlemen, there is a good opportunity to practice the new ITEA ambition. I invite you all to practice happiness during the coming 2 days. Enjoy the keynotes, enjoy the panel discussion, enjoy the exhibitions, the award ceremonies, enjoy the Co-Summit, and share the vision for ICT innovation with us.